Hello yarn tubers, welcome back to Dana's Wanderlust Crochet with Dana and Dooley. There he is. Okay, so I'm attempting a tutorial today on this dishcloth. It's kind of the size is about 10 by 10 inches by 10 inches with a little accent color and a little border, and I just think it's kind of a clean look for the Harvest Moon big winter. I want to give them a set of these and that bag, and I thought I'd do a tutorial on it. I really like, I'm kind of proud of the way this has turned out, and I like, you know, the way I fold dishcloths. I like how this will lay in the drawer. So really, I like the way these turned out. They're not hugely, you know, original, but let's see if I can actually get a tutorial done. Be right back. Okay, are we filming? Yeah. Okay, so what I've used is, oh, I need the other one. I have used 10 stitch markers and a pair of scissors, yarn needle, and I did the body in the 4.5mm hook, and I did the border in the 4.0. So let's get started. The yarn I'm using is the Crafter's Secret, and unfortunately this only comes in these 2.5 ounce balls. But I'm using the white for the body, and the example I showed you was in this mint green. It's kind of a variegated, it's called iced mint, and I like the way that came out. Now I'm also making some with these other kind of variegated colors. I've got this lemony looking one. This was on clearance, and the, what is that called? Iced lemon. See, it's got a little bit of white in it. It's I just like these colors. And I've also got this a blue one's kind of a robin's egg. Let's see what it says. It's called Spa Blue Stonewashed, and that's a better way to call, you know, to describe these colors. They're kind of a stonewashed. I did one in the yellow already. For this tutorial, I'll use this mint green. Now, I start out mine, I like a chainless foundation. But what I'm going to show you is the chainless foundation. The reason I like a chainless foundation is because I believe it's got a little more like stretchiness to it. It's really nice. Now, if you want to avoid the chainless foundation, what you're going to do is chain 39, and you're going to start in the second chain from the hook doing a single crochet. Then you're going to do a double, then you're going to do a single, then a double and a single, until you have 38 stitches. You start, or at least my example is 38 stitches wide and 30 rows tall. So if you want to go ahead and do that, you can skip ahead. Remember that, at least on the phone, I'm not sure where the options are on your computer, but on the phone there'll be 3 little dots. I believe they're in this upper right hand corner. Might be opposite on this phone, but anyway, I believe they're in this upper right hand corner. You click on that and you'll get to playback speed. You can speed up and slow down at any time. Now I'm going to show you how I did my chainless. I chain 2 because the very first chainless stitch is going to be a single crochet. Now, when you're doing, if you're going to do the 39, the chain 39, and then starting the second chain from the hook, be sure that you go in that back stitch, because that will make it easier for you when it comes to do your border, because it leaves this double stitch right here. Okay, but we are doing the chainless single crochet. So I inserted my hook in that loop and I yarned over. Normally for a single crochet you'd pull through both, but for a chainless single, the first thing you have to do is create a chain for your next stitch. And you do that just by pulling through one. Now I can do my single crochet and pull through two. Alright, so what that did is pay attention when you pull through one, pay attention to where that chain is. And it's right there. And I'm going to do a double crochet into that chain. So I'm going to always be sure that I am going underneath 2 strands of yarn. And I'm really picky on this. You think, oh, it's just a dishcloth. Well, I'm being really picky because it's a gift, and that matters to me. So I got underneath that chain 2 strands of yarn over, and pull through like you were going to do your double crochet. Now, once again, when you get to this point, you need to create a chain. It's hard to look through the viewfinder of the phone, and by just pulling through one. Pay attention to where that chain is, because that's where you're going to put your next stitch, which is going to be a single crochet. So now we do pull through 2, yeah, Dana, and then pull through 2. Okay, so we have a chainless single and we have a chainless double. Now, there's where that chain is that we created for our next stitch, which is going to be a single crochet. Remember to just pull through 1. Then we do a regular single crochet, and where we pulled through 1 is right there. There's, we're kind of blowing out, I'm sorry, there's 2 strands that we're going to go underneath when I do a double crochet. Sometimes I have to use my thumbnail to make sure I'm not splitting any of the cotton yarn. Okay, so pull through 1 and then do your double crochet. Pull through 2, pull through 2. I'm going to do this one more time. Then I'm going to pause the video and let you get your first row done of 38 stitches, starting with a single, ending with a double, single, double, single, double. Okay, so I'm going to do this with the single, going underneath those 2. Sometimes I got to use my thumbnail to make sure I'm just under those 2. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Make your chain, pull through 2 for a single. Now I'm going to yarn over and go into that chain we made. I use my thumbnail a little bit to make sure I just get under the 2. And believe me, I agonized over this chainless foundation. I don't know how many times I have started over on it because I forgot where I was. Okay, so pull through 2 and pull through 2. And do this until you can count. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 6 going right now. Do this until you have 38 stitches. If you did the chain 39, start in the second chain from the hook, meet me at the end of that row and we'll start on the next row. Okay, I've got 36 and our number is 38. So here we go. I've got a single crochet going underneath those 2 in that chain, and I'm careful not to split because it is a gift and I want it to be really nice. So pull through, remember to make that chain, then pull through 2 to complete your single crochet. Then I'm going to yarn over, get in underneath those 2. There we go. That's 37 stitches. This will be my 38th one. Chain, pull through 2, and pull through 2. And at the end of 38 stitches, here we are. And I really like, you know, Mikey calls this the crinkle stitch. You know, and I think people have seen other things called the crinkle stitch. I'm calling it the crinkle stitch just because Mikey did. And because I haven't seen anybody else, you know, call it anything else. But it could very well have a different name. So I just chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet in that first stitch. That was the last double crochet of our foundation row. So there's a single. And then the next stitch that I'm going into is a single crochet, so I'm going to double crochet into it. and then a single crochet. You're probably gonna have to turn it a little bit to get into the top of what I call the teardrop. A lot of people call them the V of the top of the stitch. I like to refer to it as a teardrop. So the single goes on top of the double, and the double goes in the top of the single. So you're going to do that for 38 stitches all the way around. Single crochet and double crochet. Single crochet and double crochet. I'm going to do that to the end, and I'm going to turn my work again. Oops, look at that little split. Okay. And I'm going to do this until I have 4 rows of the white. And I'll meet you, it'll be 1, 2, 4. It'll be down on this end where if you did the chainless foundation, it'll be the same end that has your tail. So 4 rows of white, and I'll meet you there. Okay, I got 2 stitches left on my 4th row. Now, your work might be crinkling and twisting or doing all curling, whatever. Don't worry about it. It's just the nature of this stitch. So, and you're probably starting to see that when your stitch has a lower elevation, you're putting a double crochet in it. When it has a higher elevation, you're putting a single crochet in it. So right here it has a higher elevation. It's my second to last stitch. Putting in a single crochet, and then, you know, sometimes you got to dig out that last stitch to get it underneath those 2 at the top of the previous stitch. Come on, Dana, you can do it without splitting it. Sometimes I got to use my thumbnail a little bit. There we go. And you always begin your rows with a single crochet, and you always end your rows with a double. Now at this point I'm going to change colors. Like that. So that's what 4 rows looks like. Let's hope you're not getting too washed out or not focused. Okay, so I'm going to give myself a nice tail, good length, so that I can weave it in really nice. Now I'm going to back off of this double crochet. This is how I join my colors. This is how I teach people to join their colors. I'm grabbing my other color and having it ready. It's here. There we go. And it's, whoop, 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 I'm losing it. Okay. So, I'm going to start my double crochet, get back into that stitch, and I'm going to stop my double crochet when I've almost completed the stitch, but not quite. Okay, where's the end of this green? Okay, then I'm going to make sure my tail is long enough on the green. And this can be a little tricky. You've got to, you know, pinch some yarn and grab that next color and finish your double crochet. And I take those 2 tails and I kind of snug them down a little bit. I always turn the page and then chain 1. Some people chain and then turn, and they turn away from them or whatever, but I always turn the page and then chain. So I've got my chain 1, and in that same stitch is where my single crochet goes, because you start each row with a single crochet and you end it with a double. And I'm going to snug those down a little bit. I don't like these gaps. I don't like gaps, so I try to, you know, I'm trying to make a nice fabric. I'm crocheting a fabric to use at the kitchen sink or in the bathroom, you know, or wherever you're going to use it. Okay, so my next stitch has a lower elevation. It's my second stitch, and it's going to be a double crochet. You're going to single double all the way across, and you're going to do 2 rows of this color if you're following my pattern. If you got a different color idea, go for it and post pictures of it, especially in the MeWe group. Okay, so the next one's a single. And then the next one is a double. So meet me at the end when you've done 2 rows of your new color. Okay, I have done 2 rows of the mint green. I'm down to my last 2 stitches, which is going to be a single. And then I'm going to dig out this stitch for my double crochet. So, you know, when it comes to tension, when I go to insert my hook into the top of another stitch as I'm working along, I believe I should be able to find the exact position to insert that hook without trouble. But I also feel there should be just some resistance. There should be some tension there. I really don't like big fat sloppy stitches. I don't care what I'm making. I like them to be clean, and I'm not going to say a tight stitch, but a firm stitch, because I think that what we're actually creating, like I said before, is a fabric. Even if it's kind of a lacy project, there should be just, you know, and that tension will change depending on what kind of yarn or thread you're using. But there should be just a little bit of tension when, like, I can identify that stitch easily, and it's just tight enough. There should be some resistance. Okay, quit babbling, Dana. I'm going to change colors again and go back to the white. I want to leave myself a bit of a tail, but the first thing I'm going to do is back off of this double crochet back to where I was, to where this last pull through would be, and grab my next color. And of course, you know, this you gotta, sometimes this is a little bit of an acrobatic maneuver, you know, backflip with a twist and a pirouette. That's kind of how I feel about that chainless foundation sometimes. I'm going to turn my work and keep kind of keeping these. I don't want big sloppy stitches, especially that white one. Okay, and I'm going to chain 1, hang on to that, and I'm going to do a single crochet, and I'm going to do a little snugging again just to be sure. Okay, and I'm going to do, gotta do the double crochet next, single double all the way down and back, because I'm going to do 2 rows of white, and I will meet you back here. Okay, I'm going to show my color change one more time, and then I'm going to recap what we've done and give you directions to move on ahead to right before we start the border. So I finished my last stitch. So I did 4 of the white, 2 of the mint green, 2 of the white. I'm going to do 2 more of the mint green, and the rest of this project will be done in the white. Let me cut this, grab the green, Kentucky Derby is starting, and I want to watch it really bad. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of, you know, pinch things. This is me doing acrobats and pirouettes, and yeah, not easy. Okay, so you can watch me be really awkward and changing my color and turning and trying to keep my stitches nice and clean. I like clean stitches. So I did my chain 1, and there's my first single crochet. Okay, then I'm going to do a double, and I'm going to do a single right there. Be sure you get under both loops. Sometimes they tip backwards. double. Yeah, see, some of the tops of these stitches, because we're doing a different stitch all the time, they kind of go wonky. It's not as clean as like what's going on in the bottom here. See how they all line up a lot better. So, single, double. Now, I'm going to do 2 rows of the green and switch back to the white, and I'm going to do 20 rows of the white, and I will meet you back here. And let me just say, the reason why I have 10 stitch markers is because every time I come back to this end of my work and complete 2 rows of the white, I put in 1 stitch marker. So by the time I get to the 10th stitch marker, I know that I've done 20 rows. So I'm going to go ahead and complete the 2 more of the green, and then 20 rows of the white, and we will meet back up again. Okay. I am almost done here. You can see my stitch markers are in there. I'm coming back on my last row, and I want to talk to you guys about weaving. I'm going to weave in my ends before I start on the border. There's a couple things about tails that I want to mention. One is that when there's something, when I'm giving something that hopefully is going to get a ton of hard use out of, like a dishcloth, I don't want to just crochet over my tails like I would in a different kind of project. But I am hoping that this dishcloth, whoever ends up with it, gets years of use out of it. And because of that, my ends, I'm going to be careful when I weave in my ends. Now, I've finished my 20th row of white, and that brings the total count of rows in this dishcloth to, let me fix this, to 30 rows total, including the stripes. It's because I've got 4 in the beginning here in the white, 2 of the green, 2 of the white, 2 of the green, and then 20 on the white again, bringing my count to 30 rows. Now my last stitch marker, this one I'm going to put in and hold that last stitch, because I'm not going to, oops, sure Dana, I'm not going to, you know, finish off before I start my border. Now I am going to do my border in a smaller hook. I'm dropping down to the 4.0 for that. So I'm going to hold this stitch with the stitch marker, and I'm going to go ahead and weave in ends. The other thing about weaving in ends is that I'm not going to weave them in along the edge. I'm going to bring them into the body of the work. The reason for that is I want to be able to get my border into the sides of these stitches. So, let's see if I can get started looking through the viewfinder here. Here's my first one, and like I said, I'm not finishing that off. I just put a stitch marker in to hold it. So, let's start right here on the white. I love these gold bent yarn needles. I think they do a wonderful job. Okay. Now I'm going to make sure everything's, you know, nice, and I'm not going to like yank on it and distort the work, but I'm going to make sure everything's nice and snug. Now I'm going to try to go into some of these, you know, loops. I'm going to start over here because, like I said, I don't want to change what these edges are because I need them to be consistent so that I can do a nice border, single crochet border all the way around. So I'm going to go in down here. Let's try these two right here. And one thing I've learned from Mikey, I refer to him a lot because him, along with Bella Coco and a couple others, have really helped me progress in my crochet skills. Okay, I'm going to go through there, and then I'm going to go down a little bit. And I don't want to go clear to the back, the other side. I want to just get underneath these loops. Here are a good set of loops for me to start going through. It's hard to see with the phone. And I want to make 3 passes like I've been taught. I want to go a little bit further than that. And I don't want to pull so hard, you know, that I pucker the work. I still want everything to lay nicely. Okay, so I'm going to come like I came out from behind this strand, so I'm going to go over it to go back the direction I just came from and make a nice pass here. So I went one direction once, I'm going this direction once, stretch that out, and I'm going to go back over, back the other direction. So that's 3 passes through the work, hopefully keeping it very nice. I want to go over the top of that one. There we go. Hopefully keeping it all really nice and smooth. Can't see what I'm doing here. Okay, I don't want to split strands. I want to get underneath whole strands. So this is my 3rd pass, 3 different directions, and your work should never come undone. So I'm going to pause the video and do that with the rest of my tails and get them all wove in, not running them back and forth along the edge, but coming into the work so that those edges are all still consistent and not kind of mangled up with extra yarn in it. So meet me back to where we finished, where we kept our last stitch after you get all your ends wove in. Okay, I wove in my ends and trim my tails, and I am very pleased with how smooth and even my work is where I wove everything in. Very nice. So now, and I've removed my stitch markers. So now I'm going to continue on with the smaller hook, the 4.0, and I agonize over this border because I don't want it wavy and puckery, and I don't want big gaps. So here we go. So here I am back where I finished the last row. The 20th row of this body of white. It's the 30th row of the whole project. Now before I go on, I'm going to get a game plan in my head. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to consider this my corner, and I'm going to put 3 single crochet in there. And it took a lot of trial and error to get my edges to where I was happy with them, to where I felt like they were even, because, you know, quite honestly, it's not always easy to crochet into the side of your work, into the sides of these stitches. So we're going to do it together. There's a chain 1, and I'm going to get into that gap, and I'm going to do 3 single crochet with this little hook. One, 2. What did I do? 2 of them? Okay, I got distracted because I think a friend of mine just pulled in. Okay, 3. And then I've got to decide, you know, how I'm going to go into the sides of these stitches. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find that middle stitch right there. The middle of those 3. And that's going to help me when I come back around. Ideally, I'm going to go not around, I'm not going to go around a stitch like this. Focus, please. I am not going to do that. You know why? Because that's going to leave a big old gap there and make my work look really kind of, you know, real amateur, and I am an amateur. That's the problem. But I'm going to go in the side of this stitch and make sure I get underneath 2 strands of yarn in the side of that stitch to do my next single crochet. Now when I'm counting how many stitches I'm putting along the side, I'm counting the last of these 3. So right now I have 2 in the side of my work. And I'm going to go in, I'm going to try going in right here. Now because I've got 30 rows and I'm going into the side of each row, it's not going to be exactly even. I came up with the number of 38 single crochets evenly spaced along the side to keep my work from puckering or getting wavy. So there's 3. I'm going to put my next one. There's a spot right there that won't leave too big of a gap. There's 4. Then I'm going to go into the side of this stitch. And I literally, when I talk about agonizing over that chainless foundation, the truth is, I agonized over these edges even more. And I'm going to let you guys go along and hopefully, you know, you'll get them evenly. You'll come up with 38 or whatever number that you are really happy with along these sides and you feel like your borders are how you want them. And I'll meet you back down in the corner. Good luck with this. Okay, I have 37 and I'm pretty happy with how even the stitches are on the side. So the 38th one is going to go where I have determined my corner is going to be. And I've decided it's right there. So there's number 38. And I'm going to do 3 in that spot. Make sure I can see what I'm doing. There's 2, and here's number 3. Okay, and I'm going to grab a stitch marker and mark that middle one of the 3. It's not like using stitch markers to help you with your end stitches. You know how I had to dig out that last one on the end of each row, or using stitch markers to mark that middle one. It's not like it's beneath me. I don't care how good I eventually get at crocheting, I will still be using stitch markers for those kinds of things. Professional crocheters use stitch markers, and they use them abundantly, let's say. because we're all capable of making a mistake when it comes to finding these particular stitches. Okay, now on this bottom, this is where my foundation, my chainless foundation is. And you see these nice stitches here that I can easily find? This is important to me so that I can have a nice edge. On this edge, I am simply going to single crochet into each one of those, what I call the teardrops, what others call the V of the stitch. I want to make sure you guys can see these. Right underneath these two strands, that's where we're putting in all the bottom part of this row of the bottom of this border. So I'll meet you at the corner. Now, I put a single crochet in the bottom of every stitch all the way across. Just put my hook into what I'm going to consider the corner and put my last one of the bottom part of this border. But I'm going to put 3 in that same spot. There's 2. Hard to see through this viewfinder. Now that I've got my 3rd one in that same spot, I'm going to that middle stitch, putting my stitch marker in there. Now, here we go again. This side is even harder. And I agonize over this, and I tear it out and I start over when I think this edge isn't nice, because I'm putting in my foundation part of the border by doing the single crochet the first time around. It's got to be even, or I have a real problem with it. Okay, so I count this the last of these 3 as the first one of this side, and I have come up with, again, the number 38 to make this nice and even and lay flat. And I am making sure that when I go into the side of a stitch, I've got 2 strands on top. I pull it through there, instead of just going around the stitch like that, because it's going to leave a really big gap. Here's the side of a single crochet, and those are pretty tight, so I'll go into those when I feel it's necessary. So basically I have 3 so far. I'm going to go into the side of this stitch without splitting. So let's try that again. There we go. So I'm going into the side of that stitch, splitting. I don't like splitting. Okay, that will straighten out when I get it correct. There. So that's my agony going along the side. So when you're satisfied with your single crochet along this side, I'll meet you at the next corner. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how my spacing is on this edge. I have done 3 in the corner, and now I'm just going to do 1 in each stitch across the top. Starting right there. Yes. And then in the next stitch. And I'll do this all the way across until I get to the beginning corner. So I've come all the way across, and I know that I'm in the last stitch of this top row. This is the slip stitch over, that's the chain 1, and this is the first single crochet of the border round. I am going to, of course, we all know how this goes, I'm going to slip stitch into that stitch, chain 1, and single crochet right back into it. I'm going to take my stitch marker out, and yes, you guessed it, I'm going to put 3 single crochet into that stitch. And there's no more counting now. Now I'm just going around with my hook and putting a single crochet in the top of the previous round's single crochets, and every place I have my stitch markers, I'm going to put 3 stitches into that corner stitch. You all know how it works. I'll meet you back around at the beginning. I've done this border across the top. I've got a single crochet in that last stitch. This is my slip stitch from before, and that's my chain 1. So this first stitch right here, that's what I'm going to slip stitch into, and I'm going to finish my work off. Then I'm going to weave in my tail, and we're going to discuss this dishcloth. So, I'm very happy with these dishcloths. Very happy. I'd love to see what you guys make. I think, you know, they're nice, they're big. They make a nice set, and I am excited. I'm happy with how they turned out, and I'm happy with sending this set along with that classic equine bag to the big winner of the Harvest Moon giveaway, to be chosen on October 1st, 2020. So here they are. I just really like these. Now you can make these any size. I mean, this is a 10 by 10 dishcloth. You can make them smaller, or you could make them longer in a rectangle to be more of a dish towel. I think they'd work great for that. So, you know, please let me know what you think of this kind of, you know, not, I mean, it's a simple concept for this dish towel. It really is. But it can be a little, I don't know, you know, it's not for, you know, this tutorial and this pattern are not for an absolute beginner. For an absolute beginner, you know, if you're not familiar with, you know, some pretty basic crochet, some fundamental things, please check out my crochet skills development course. I'll be linking that in the description box. And go to my MeWe group and post pictures of what you've made, or email me, you know, whatever. I'm really excited to see how you all do with this pattern. So I thank you for joining along. I love you guys. Bye.